There is a kind of chaos that no one can see. It doesn't live in the streets or in the storms, but inside the quiet space between your thoughts. You wake up, and before you've even touched the world, your mind has already begun its storm. Worries, regrets, what-ifs, voices arguing about what could happen next. It's strange, isn't it? The world outside may be calm, but the mind is always at war. You try to focus, you try to breathe. But the moment something doesn't go your way, a message, a delay, a word, the storm begins again. And here's the truth: most people never face the greatest battle you'll ever fight will not be against another person, but against your own mind. The Stoics understood this. 2,000 years ago, they faced their own storms, wars, loss, betrayal, exile, and yet they discovered something extraordinary. Peace, they said, is not the absence of chaos. It is the mastery of self within it. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote to himself each morning, "Today I shall meet people who are ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and selfish. Yet none of them can harm me." He didn't write this to sound wise. He wrote it to survive the day with calm. He trained his mind the way a warrior trains his sword, to stay sharp under pressure, to act with reason, not reaction. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Because most pain isn't born from the world. It's born from the stories we tell ourselves about it. The Stoics learned to rewrite those stories. They learned to pause between thought and reaction, to see clearly before they acted. And that is where peace begins. You see, the mind is not an enemy. It's a wild horse. Untrained, it will throw you off and run into the storm. Trained, it will carry you through it with grace. To master your mind is to train this horse, to guide it with reason, patience, and awareness. The Stoics didn't talk about control as domination. They talked about control as understanding, knowing where your power begins and where it ends. Because most of the chaos you feel comes from trying to control what isn't yours. You can't control how others think. You can't control the world's events. You can't even control every thought that enters your head. But you can control which ones you feed. That's the secret the Stoics lived by. Peace is not a gift. It is a skill. And like any skill, it must be trained daily, patiently, deliberately. They practiced stillness when the world was loud. They practiced courage when fear was natural. They practiced compassion when anger was easy. Because the mind only becomes calm when you train it in the storm, not when you hide from it. So today, as we begin this journey together, I ask you one question. Not a question to answer with words, but to carry with you quietly. What kind of mind do you want to build? Do you want one that reacts, collapses, and blames? Or one that endures, understands, and remains calm no matter the chaos? The answer begins now as you learn the Stoic path, the training of thought, the stillness of perception, and the art of calm in a world that never stops moving. The Stoics began every lesson with a simple truth. You do not control the world, you control your mind. It sounds small, but it is everything. Because the moment you stop trying to control what is beyond your reach, you begin to master what has always been within it. Epictetus, who was born a slave, lived his entire youth under the command of another man. He was beaten, insulted, humiliated, and yet he became one of the freest minds in history. He said, "There is only one way to happiness, to stop worrying about things beyond our control." Think about that. A man who owned nothing, not even his own body, discovered that peace was not in circumstance, but in perception. And that's where the first Stoic discipline begins. The discipline of control. When something goes wrong, the untrained mind reacts. It blames. It curses fate. It asks, "Why me?" The Stoic pauses. He takes a breath and asks instead, "Is this within my control?" If the answer is no, he lets it go. If the answer is yes, he acts with calm strength. This simple question can change the course of your entire life. Because control is not about power, it's about peace. It's the art of knowing where to place your energy and where to withdraw it. Every day, you are surrounded by things you cannot control, the opinions of others, the weather, the outcome of your efforts, the past, the future. But you can always control one thing, your response in this moment. That is the essence of Stoicism. to anchor yourself so deeply in reason that no wave of chaos can move you. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire on earth, but he spent every night reminding himself that he controlled nothing except his thoughts and actions. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events."
The Stoics believed that we don't suffer from the world itself. We suffer from our perception of it. Reality is neutral. It is our judgment that gives it shape. Two people can face the same storm. One sees tragedy, the other sees training. The storm is the same, but the story changes everything. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was reminding us that fear is rarely about what is happening. It's about what the mind imagines will happen. How many times have you worried about a future that never came? How many nights have you lost peace to thoughts that never became real? That's perception, the enemy disguised as reason. The voice that says, "You can't handle this," when in truth you already have. The Stoic learns to question this voice. He looks at fear and says, "Is this true, or is this just a thought?" Because when you separate what's real from what's imagined, half your suffering disappears. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That line is liberation. It means you can change your experience of life without changing the world around you. You can wake up in the same city, face the same people, and live the same day, and yet feel completely different because your perception has changed. The Stoics called this philosophical vision, the ability to see things as they are, not as your emotions paint them. The untrained mind exaggerates pain and dismisses blessings. It inflates problems and shrinks gratitude. But the Stoic trains his vision daily. He sees loss as lesson, failure as feedback, discomfort as teacher. He does not ask for an easier world. He asks for a stronger mind. And slowly, life begins to feel lighter, not because the world changed, but because he did. Perception shapes everything. If you see life as chaos, you'll drown in it. If you see life as practice, you'll grow through it. That is the power of Stoic perception. Not to remove pain, but to transform it into purpose. Control and perception, these are the first two pillars of mental mastery. They are the foundation upon which the calm mind is built. But even the wisest person cannot hold peace forever if they are ruled by emotion, because emotion is the strongest current of all. It can lift you or destroy you. And so, the next lesson of the Stoics is the hardest one of all, to master the heart without hardening it. In the next part, you'll learn the third Stoic discipline, emotional mastery, how to feel everything deeply without being controlled by anything. There are storms that come from outside, but the fiercest ones are born within. You've felt them before. The anger that burns so quickly you can't breathe. The fear that freezes your heart before you even move. The sadness that pulls you into silence and won't let go. These storms don't announce themselves. They rise quietly, a word, a memory, a disappointment, and suddenly, you're drowning again. The Stoics never denied these feelings. They never said you shouldn't feel. They said you must learn to rule what you feel. Epictetus taught that emotions are not the enemy. It is our attachment to them that enslaves us, he said. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The Stoic does not suppress emotion. He observes it. He stands still as the wave crashes, and he lets it pass. He says to himself, "This anger is not me. This fear is not me. They are guests. And like all guests, they will leave." The untrained mind reacts to emotion. The trained mind reflects through it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." It's not weakness to pause before reacting. It's wisdom, because in that pause lies freedom. The Stoics practiced this pause every day. When they felt insulted, they asked, "Does this harm my virtue?" When they felt anger, they asked, "Will this matter tomorrow?" When they felt fear, they asked, "Is this danger real or imagined?" Every emotion became a teacher. Every reaction became training, because emotion is not your enemy. It is your mirror. It shows you where you are still unfree. Seneca wrote, "No man is angry without believing that he has been wrong." So ask yourself, What belief feeds your emotion if you feel rage? Is it because you expected fairness from a world that was never built to be fair? If you feel envy, is it because you've forgotten to be grateful for what you already have? If you feel fear, is it because you've confused uncertainty with danger? When you look beneath emotion, you will always find a story. And if you can change that story, you can change the feeling. The Stoics used reason as a light to look into these dark corners of the heart. They didn't deny pain, they redefined it. Pain was not punishment, it was purification. It showed them what still needed strength. Fear was not failure. It was a signal, pointing toward what needed to be faced. Anger was not power. It was proof of weakness, the sign that something external still held control. When you begin to see emotion this way, it loses its power over you. You stop fighting it, and you start learning from it. The Stoic knows that emotional control does not mean emptiness. It means balance. It means to feel deeply, but act wisely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This is the heart of Stoic mastery: compassion for others, discipline for self. Because once you learn to control your emotions, you stop being ruled by the world. People can insult you, and you remain calm. The day can fall apart, and you still act with purpose. The storm can rage, and you stand unmoved. Not because you are cold, but because you are trained. That is true emotional power. It is not loud, it is quiet. It is the kind of strength that others mistake for mystery. But it is simply clarity. The Stoics believed that emotion, when mastered, becomes energy. Anger becomes courage. Fear becomes focus. Sadness becomes depth. Even joy becomes gratitude. Everything the heart feels can be used for growth if the mind leads the way. That is why Stoicism is not about becoming less human. It's about becoming more fully aware of your humanity. It's about feeling every emotion but never being its prisoner. And when the mind and heart finally move in harmony, you become untouchable. The storms may still come, but they no longer shake you. They remind you that you've built something stronger than chaos: yourself. This is the discipline of emotional mastery: to feel the fire and not be burned by it, to stand inside the storm and realize it can no longer reach you. But the Stoics also knew that the mind cannot remain calm forever if it has no purpose. A mind without direction will wander back into chaos. That is why, in the next part, you will learn the fourth discipline: purpose and action. Because the mind that knows why it lives is a mind that no longer fears how it lives.